Howdy folks, Randy Holland here. I thought I'd share with you today some of the things I've come up with. Not all original ideas by any means, but it's really improved my wood splitting capabilities. So what I've got is a little Choi built splitter. I bought this back in 2006. Served me well. I did have to replace a carburetor this year, but I'm going to show you a few things that I'm using. I'm getting a little long in the tooth now, so it's really hard for me to bust up these big rounds with a maul or something. So I've been racking my brain, looked at a couple YouTube videos, and so what I'm going to show you is going to really help improve your wood splitting capabilities, and also it's going to make it much easier for you and much quicker. So one of the things I've done that really helps, these little guys right here. This is called a picaroon. I built these just as scrap material, and this is called an axaroon. So the picaroon is real handy for sticking it in wood, picking it up off the ground, saves your back, pulling it off your stack to load your wheelbarrow. Or if you're going to pick up a load of wood, you can actually reach up into the bed and pull the wood out without actually getting into the bed itself. The little axaroon I've made, that is real handy sometimes when you make the split, it doesn't split all the way in two. So with that little axe, you can kind of help along, finish the split, and it's easy to get out of your way for sure. Some other things I've done that's really improved the splitting is I built this 4-way wedge. So the original wedge looked like this. It's a cast wedge. It's got this large hole up here. And so what I did was, I just came in. This is all built out of scrap material. And you can see that big bolt right here. That actually slips over top of the original wedge. The bolt goes into this hole and it locks it into place. If you need to take it off, just pick it up off of it. It's a real simple process. Another thing you might want to check on your splitter, if you haven't checked it or didn't know anything about it, is these little guys right here. These are called Nova jaws. So what it does is it transfers the power from your engine to your pump. This one right here would go on the pump shaft. This one would go on the engine shaft. If you have to replace it, you're going to have to take your old ones off to see what size shafts you have. You can pick these up at Tractor Supply. I think they're about $50. But this little guy here is called a spider. And so the spider goes between these joints, and it's a cushion. It's made out of some really hard plastic or rubber or neoprene or something, but that's what cushions it. So this way it gives, if you aren't perfectly aligned with your shaft and your pump and your engine, then this helps take up the slack on that. So you might want to check that. If you don't, what'll happen is the spider will wear out, and then your joint or jaw is going to look like this. The other one actually stripped all the way out, and it makes one hell of a racket when it does that. Pretty easy fix. I had to pull the engine up. It was only 4 bolts or something, but it made a big difference for that on it, so you might want to check it. Another thing I've done as far as with this little guy right here, this is David Beebe's idea as far as cutting off the length of the stroke. And what that does is when the wedge comes back, it's going to hit right here, and it's going to kick this around and actually kick off your cylinder from working. It cuts it off. I've got it set at 18 inches. I actually cut my wood 16, and I use this little guy here that I've made. That's just a rare earth magnet, and it's made out of an old tent pole or something. But it actually just sticks to the side of your bar. You mark your wood, and then you can go back and saw it in two. That way you get your rounds pretty much 16 inches. Now for getting back to this, what I've done is I've got this set at 18 inches, and that gives you some allowance just in case you didn't get your wood cut exactly straight, and so then I can get it in. So the big advantage of that is once this comes all the way back, your wedge cuts this off, it stops it from all this lost motion in the stroke here. I'm losing about 8 inches or so. And so what it does is you have that extra time coming back, and also when you're going forward to make your split. So this cuts it off at 18 inches, so you eliminate all that lost motion down there through there. Another thing I've added is a little gizmo right here. You don't have to configure it this way, but what that does is you can come in and take your leg, pull this over just like this, and that gives you hands-free operation. You don't have to have your hand on the lever up here to make the forward stroke on this to split your wood. And then to cut it off, you just let off, push it back, that locks it into place, and then when the wedge comes up, it's going to hit this and kick it off at 18 inches on that. So that really made a big plus on it. I also added this little guy right here. That is just a brace. It takes all the weight off of the valve here. So it makes a big difference when we're working on it. Another thing we've added the extra tables, this one here, I just took this piece of pipe, welded along the edge of the table. That way when you're working, your leg is not up against this 1/8 inch metal here. It gets annoying after a while, it actually hurts. So that helps eliminate some of that stress on that. But the biggest improvement I've made on it is the lift table. So the way the lift table works, it just works off a cable system. And what you do is you roll the big round down on top of this little platform right there. And then when on the backstroke of when you backstroke your rod, it's going to raise the table up from the cables. And so the cable is attached down here at the bottom. It comes up to the top of the boom, to that cable, that pulley, comes down to the bottom of the boom, to that pulley, and then comes over to this pulley right here. It goes through. It's actually attached to the bottom of the wedge platform down here. I just took one of the bolts out, made an adapter, hooked my cable into it so you can see the cable nut down there. And so on the backstroke, it actually raises your table up. Now, one thing about it, when it comes up, it does raise your table, and when you come in to make your split, your table is going to go back down. So to combat that, what I did was put this rod in right here. That goes down to the bottom of the lift table. And then when it comes up, you'll see this little wedge right here, right there. So this wedge is going to come up and it's going to drop in behind this rod right here. So I'm going to raise this up. And then it drops in behind there. And what that does, it keeps your table up so it doesn't go down when you make the stroke to actually split your wood on that. And also it gives you much more work surface up here to put your off splits on. The smaller ones, you can actually throw them out of the way. The larger ones have to be resplit, then you can put them on this table. Gives you a much larger work surface. Now, what I bought was these little pulleys. Bought these at Lowe's. I think they're about $8 a piece or something. You could actually bolt these on if you wanted to, but I chose to weld them. Figure if I got to replace one of them, it'd just be a matter of cutting it off and then starting over. I used 3/16 inch cable when it came in, just like that. Now this spring right here, what happens if you don't have that spring on there, when you make this stroke here, the cable's going to get real loose down in this area here, and most likely it's going to hang up on one of the bolts or something like that. So the spring here actually keeps tension on the cable. It takes up all the slack on that. That's just a screen door spring. Picked that up at Lowe's as well. What I actually purchased is Lowe's, like $35 or something, but well worth the expense for doing it, as you'll see. Now also, when the backstroke comes up, it will actually raise your table when it cuts off a little bit. Raise that up so you can easily just pick the wedge that's holding the table up, and then you can let the table go back down, and then you can pick up another round when you come in with that. So that is definitely a big improvement on the splitting mechanism of it. Another thing I've done is I've added this extra table. Sorry about the shadowing. So this comes up and it exposes the engine where I can work on it, fill up with gas or whatever, something like that. And then also the biggest advantage of it is it keeps all the debris from falling in on top of your engine when it's working on it. Now these modifications, they are dangerous, so if you decide to do this, first and foremost, I can't be responsible for it. This video is educational only, it's not an instruction video. So if you do something stupid, then that's entirely up to you. One thing you have to be aware of, if you're going to do any welding around, you want to make sure that your rod is all the way back into the barrel up here. One little piece of splatter from welding is going to cause you to ruin your seal, so you want to make sure you don't have that problem. If you can't run it all the way back when you're adjusting this mechanism here, then you want to make sure if you're welding around it, be sure and cover that up with a piece of leather or something like that. Another thing I did was during the welding process, you're going to be welding pretty close to this gas tank here. You want to be careful with that. I took a leather work apron, put over top of the engine and over the gas tank, and then set up a fan behind me. And what the fan did, it would blow away any residual fumes or something coming off of the gas, and it helps, it makes it much safer. The only thing is, if you're using a MIG welder, you're going to have to take your off-gloved hand and cradle around your welding. If you don't, the fan is going to blow away your argon gas, and you're going to get a pretty crappy weld when you do that. If you're using a stick welder, that's definitely not a problem. But just be safe if you decide to make any of these modifications. Now keep in mind, this can still work vertical, but I don't know of any reason why you would want to do it vertical, because it's a real pain to do all that. So some of these things, I hope it kind of sparked your interest. Maybe you get into your shop and you'll make some of these modifications. And if I've helped you, great. Thanks for watching.